Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. So, in this lesson, inshallah, we'll be analyzing the second chapter of the first part of Atonement. Okay, so let us begin. So, Cecilia Tallis, who uh, is Bryony's older sister, who goes to college, she walks the grounds of the family estate and she ponders over the boredom she feels while stuck at home. Her daily routine is smoking, reading, and relaxing in her untidy room. She is eager to leave home, but likes to imagine that she is being prevented from leaving. And she also feels like she cannot leave before she clears up the awkward feelings she feels towards her longtime friend and peer at Cambridge University, Mr. Robbie Turner. Robbie works as a gardener on the estate, and the Tallis family funds his education. So Cecilia's thoughts of Robbie they foreshadow the love affair at the center of the novel. Her somewhat lazy habits and the way she indulges in them, in contrast to Robbie's job performing manual labor for her family, it highlights the class differences that separate the two characters. And with this, it is quite self-explanatory that the theme of this part would be class. Now, whenever we're going to be saying that the theme of the part is class, what would we mean? Uh, so the class, the tension that drives the book's early plot is the scandalous love affair between the well-bred Cecilia Tallis and the low-class Robbie Turner, who is the son of her, of, who is the son of one of her family servants. Although Robbie has been largely incorporated into the Tallis family, both by growing alongside the Tallis children and by enjoying a stellar education sponsored by the family, he is nevertheless an outsider. Robbie's future depends on the charity of the Tallises. His outsider status undeniably contributes to the swift and the uncompromised isolation he experiences after Bryony accuses him of raping Lola. So McEwan emphasizes that an individual society's status has little connection with their moral and intellectual worth. The chocolate heir Paul Marshall's high social status it likely allows him to escape suspicion for the crime that he committed, and he never acknowledges his misdeed, and in fact even buys his way out of trouble by marrying and thereby making rich the girl he actually raped. Meanwhile, low-born Robbie is one of the brightest and the kindest characters in the novel. However, while he may be morally and intellectually exceptional, Robbie's low class does prevent him from exercising the power to choose his own fate that other higher status characters do throughout the novel. Instead, he is left at the mercy of a biased system, while other morally disgraceful characters go unpunished, largely and only because of their greater social influence. And further, Robbie is also not immune to class prejudice, as he assumes that even lower class than him, Mr. Danny Hardman, raped Lola. So the higher class people are assuming that the person belonging to the lower class than them, who is Robbie, he has raped Lola. And that is the case with Robbie as well. A person who is lower to his class, Danny Hartman, he believes that he is the person who might have raped Lola. And all of them, they never imagine that it might have been Paul Marshall who did it. Why? Because of his social status. Okay, so we'll move on to the next part. So Cecilia places flowers into a priceless family inheritance vase that was given to her by late Uncle Clem after he helped save a village in World War One. And she goes outside to fill the vase in the fountain and begins to flirt with Robbie. He tells her about his ambition to study medicine, and she wonders why he has been acting distant lately. So both Cecilia and Robbie have feelings for another, but they are not yet comfortable enough to display them openly. Robbie's boldness in speaking to Cecilia shows how the way he was included by the Talises and the education they have given to him has made him comfortable interacting with people of much higher social class than he is. This highlights the themes of class again and lost innocence. What is lost innocence? Whenever we're going to be talking about lost innocence, what would we mean? As Atonement's characters, they develop over the course of the novel and are accustomed to the sufferings of the adult world, they grow progressively less innocent. With the time of the novel that it passes by, the characters they grow less innocent. The universal loss of innocence is actually largely catalyzed by Lola's rape and Bryony's false testimony. As the 13-year-old, Bryony naively believes that she understands love and virtue and can flawlessly interpret her surroundings. Her incorrect interpretations have disastrous consequences. So Bryony's false testimony against Robbie is innocent in the sense that she cannot fully comprehend the harm it will cause. But after she slanders him, she is fundamentally changed. She will never be able to retrieve the naive perspective she held at the beginning of the book. As her innocence is shaken by further exposure to an unforgiving world, particularly her experience nursing injured soldiers later on in the play, leads Bryony to grow less and less confident in her own perspective and more open to understanding the perceptions of others. Lola, of course, also loses innocence when Paul rapes her. Not only is she traumatically introduced to a violent, unsafe world, in the aftermath, she allows herself to become an accomplice in Bryony's life. This collaboration compounds itself further when Lola marries her rapist Paul. From then on, she must consider her victimization from a coldly pragmatic perspective. To allow the truth to surface would undermine her husband and her own high social status, which she gained through the marriage. Both of them would be undermined if the truth is allowed to surface. In this way, Lola's rape, causes far reaching psychological changes that make it impossible for her to regain the youthful perspective she held previously. Robbie and Cicely, the two people most directly harmed by Bryony's lie, also lose a great deal of innocence as a result. Once a promising medical student, Robbie is instead forced by jail time and wartime to focus his attention on his own survival. Instead of cultivating his intellect and learning to treat suffering, he must supervise others' suffering to ensure that he escapes France alive. In a matter of hours, Bryony's testimony turns Cecilia's life infatuation with Robbie into bitter resentment of her own family. Of course, most importantly of her, when this innocence is lost, it cannot be replaced. Bryony cannot amend her misdeeds with her writing, nor can she legally acquit Robbie by revising her testimony. Then, Robbie insists on helping Cecilia fill the vase in the fountain, but Cecilia resists his help. However, Robbie continues to grasp the vase and part of its lip breaks off. Robbie begins to unclothe to get the piece out of the fountain, but Cecilia blocks him. She takes off most of her clothes and retrieves the ceramic chip from the fountain while meaningfully ignoring him. So, the vase breaking incident suggests both Robbie and Cecilia's inability to really communicate at this point, and the sexual tension between that inability. What does it do? Number one, it suggests that both Robbie and Cecilia they are unable to really communicate, at least at this very point. And it also highlights the sexual tension between or beneath or under that inability. At the same time, the destruction of Uncle Clem's vase foreshadows the ominous rift or destruction in the Tallis family that will come as a result of Cecilia's relationship to Robbie. With this, we end the second chapter of the first part of the novel. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask.